Hey everybody, welcome back to X's for Show, your premier media response show. Of course, today we're here to talk about one of our favorite things that we can't wait to premiere respond to. But as for me, you can check me at NICO Action, NICOACTION.
And me, TK Elemental.
That makes me your producer, KEVO, really. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment so that we know what you want us to cover in the future. But yeah, we've got a lot to discuss today. We did our mid-season recap of Agatha All Along a few weeks ago, and I don't think we said anything that we need to go back on too hard as a result of the finale, thankfully.
You know, I think about what Agatha All Along represented for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which was like a fucking win. And like, I don't want to be, you know, Captain Negatory, but I think I am going to be Negatory Amos for a minute, because I think that one of the things that we wound up with Marvel Cinematic Universe expansion ideas is like, you know, puberty is somewhat strange. You know what I mean? It's really difficult to map puberty, where you're like, you'll grow in this way, this thing will get more developed, you'll evolve, your brain will change. And the Marvel Cinematic Universe had the most beautiful young adolescents in the entire world. And phase 3, this moment of graduation from high school into college, it was getting into the greatest college of all time. And then what do you do when it's the freshman 15 weeks of depression? And what do you do when your dining card doesn't work in the dining hall? And Agatha All Along really felt like we got our old student back. It was WandaVision again, but totally different. And if WandaVision was born of the very emotional, brilliant place that Game of Thrones was at the time, this was definitely born of a post The Good Place world. And I just can't say enough positive things about this show.
So you did a puberty metaphor, but then you leapfrogged us to college. So yeah. If I want to go back to that, because the show had the MCU had a very beautiful childhood, and I feel like, you know, it got to graduating lower school and then started middle school and has had a crazy puberty. And like, the thing about puberty is it's horrible, it's disgusting, it's awful, but it's also really funny and really cool. And like, there are, for every year you start to smell, you get, you know, lip hair that if somebody doesn't teach you how to shave, you look so stupid. Sometimes you're fat, sometimes your body's horrible. For all of that, you also discover the world, and things are amazing and beautiful to you for the first time. Sometimes it's when you're at your funniest and your most intelligent. Sometimes it's when you're at your stupidest. And sometimes those moments are, you know, two people will be in the same moment, and one of them is the idiot and the other is the genius, and it's just two kids trying to figure life out. And the MCU over the last, you know, over the post Endgame phases has really been doing a lot of that, where like some of it is just a fucking mess, but it's also, some of it's really funny, and like the fact that it's a mess is funny. Some of it is just like, let's forget that even happened. There's so much experimentation, so many like, well, you can't get it wrong because, you know, you're gonna grow up and grow out of it, but at the time you're just like, this is so wrong and so horrible and miserable. And then there are things where like, you know, Eternals, I loved it, but like everybody talks about it like it was just the worst thing. You know, there's been so much of that, and this does really feel like, I don't know if we're out of it yet. I don't know if we're out of this, you know, MCU puberty yet, and I don't know even what the upcoming like Doomsday and Return to the Russo brothers and RDJ, I don't know what that means for our future, but yeah, I mean, like this represents to me maybe a sort of lighthouse beacon towards a cleaner future. There's a lot of ways in which I wish this was pointing towards some stuff that I can't guarantee that it is, but I have so much great stuff to say about it, and I had so much fun with it.
Kevy, I'd love to get your take on MC Pubes. Tell me how you feel about Agatha All Along, as it kind of relates to the MCU growing up and growing out of that puberty phase, which again, TK, thanks for helping me adjust the timeline, because yeah, I think I did say that they were all Doogie Howser.
Well, and what I really love about us using that metaphor and point of comparison for this project is the character that it focused the most around, apart from the title character, obviously.
Ms. Hart.
I I mean, even as a joke, that's a generational thing, and there's something to that. But no, Billy and the Maximoff boys and them going through their quick grow and them now being this metaphor and through line for growth as, the unplanned but now first project post Endgame and Infinity Saga, that sets such an interesting tone. And now to have developed it in this way, I really, really, really was not expecting this. I mean, we all had our suspicions when Joe Locke was cast, obviously, and the emphasis that they put around the mystery of teen, and it's teen, and who knows what that'll mean. I really thought they were going to do something that would have been a little bit more of a cop-out, like if it had been Nikki, and it had been, even if it had been like Mephisto or an agent of Mephisto, that would have felt like so much more of a cop-out. But to go forward with, not only go forward with this character, but to flat out do Wiccan in such a way, really speaks to intention that they have going forward, I hope. And that's really cool.
And, it's interesting that you bring it up, because I was certain it couldn't be Wiccan, because it was so perfect, because people were saying, if you cast Kit Harington as Hulkling, these two are just, they've already proven their chemistry and it's perfect. And we had this already, and it was John Krasinski and Emily Blunt.
Yeah.
And we got John Krasinski in a way that I think was, for me personally, disappointing, because I actually really do think he would have been great. And I think that they feel like MCU people to me, where nobody in the Fantastic Four does, and maybe they'll convince me. But I like that idea. I thought it was really fun, and I thought it was kind of like magic does happen in the world. Like, sometimes you see two people who are perfect for two characters, and then Marvel gives you your wish and casts them. And instead what we got was like, we heard you guys, we're not doing it. And I'm sure there are a billion reasons why, and they're all really good ones. And I'm sure I'll be really happy with Pedro Pascal and co. But
I mean, Pedro Pascal playing Hulkling because he gets cast as everything, and I'm fine with it.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be Hulkling. Yep.
Just checking.
So this, to have another moment where so many people were like, he would be perfect for Billy, and then Connor would be perfect for Teddy. I was just like, of course they're not going to do that, because it's too perfect and everyone's talking about it. And, they're not going to do that. But it'll be fun when he's Nicholas Scratch or something like that, or he's none of the above, and it's just a new character. So it was really wild. I really spent most of the show being like, no, it's really going to turn out to be something else. And like right up until the car crash, even like until he's there, I was like, it's going to be something else. Or he'll exit the body. I really did not think we were going to
until the end. Yeah, even beyond the car crash and that whole backstory episode, I was really still thinking,
I thought he would be like,
back.
I release you, and I'll
credit scene of Mephisto, gleefully being a spirit over his form.
Instead, we got this. I wasn't expecting them to not only keep forward with Billy, but to then lay the groundwork.
Do it to Tommy.
Yeah, Tommy too.
Yeah.
Really surprising.
Yeah.
So, I'm so glad you said something about the kind of obviousness of the casting, because I think there's a level at which we associate characters that we know with an obviousness of casting, but there's also a level at which we don't really I've decided that my dream X-Men villain in casting would be legitimately Ellen Pompeo as Cassandra Nova. I really think her hideous, hateful coldness, combined with her love of life, her fullness of character, she could do that character such incredible honor. And this is not Agatha Harkness. This isn't even 2% Agatha Harkness. This is instead a call to what makes the idea of the quintessential era witch. Agatha Harkness represented the crone idea of witchdom at the time where Stan Lee's understanding of witches was maiden mother crone in a simplistic form. So by understanding that this is the maiden iteration, we all get the Fairuza Balk, he's sorry. Like, we all get it. And that is 1,000% maiden. We understand old lady Agatha, that's crone. But to take the time to delve into the identity of mother with Agatha in such a way that was so unexpected, with Rio Vidal being such an unexpected interpretation of death, Sashir Zamata's brilliant, painstaking, well-considered interpretation of Jen Kale, and of course, Emmy winner Patti LuPone as Lilia Calderu. I decided she's winning the Emmy.
Sashir and Patti LuPone are not playing comics Jennifer Kale or Lilia Calderu in the same way that Agatha, it's the right move. It's the right way to go. But they're nothing like they're.
But that's why Billy can be so on the nose.
Right. Yeah.
There's also something really interesting that I find about that. I was watching another channel talking about the original plans for Multiverse of Madness, and they also talked a little bit further back about the Avengers original plans. And one of the things that they pointed to, which I'd already been aware of because I know the actors, and I cared about Joss Whedon at the time, was there would have been more focus on Ashley Johnson and Enwar Jokai, and there was a third character as well, where they would have been sort of our... Yeah, there was like another cop, and they would have been given us a little bit more focus on like something to focus through as the audience. And Joss realized we didn't really need that. But something that I realized that we sort of lost from the MCU over time, for better or for worse, but I think in some ways for better, is if they'd had those characters, people would have been like, when is Ashley Johnson getting powers? When is Enwar Jokai getting his spinoff? Look what happened to Darcy Lewis. Look what happened to Phil Coulson. And I feel like instead we're getting stuff like we're taking deep cut characters like Lilia, Alice, Jen Kale. We're doing new things with them that we can then hopefully still honor where the character came from if they did well and people want to see more. But rather than invent these characters that now all of a sudden Darcy is so major that she was in WandaVision without any of the Thor characters.
And is a regular... She's a regular in the Scarlet Witch comic.
And she crossed over to the comics now. She's a regular feature in the What If animated series, and it's just that feels weird when there are so many characters from the comics that we could be doing that with, like what we did with Lilia.
I will say I wish they would do a show as a repository for that. Damage Control would be my ideal, but Empire State University based show where like some of the people are human and baseline, I think would be really fun, but that's kind of besides the point. That's a dream and a speculation. But yeah, I mean, like, and that is kind of the tough thing is I think there's something to mine in how normal people experience the world of the MCU. Like that, I think that's a show. But if we're not doing that show, for all of his moral faults, Joss Whedon has a really good eye a lot of the time for what something needs in terms of perspective. And he gave us Xander, who, for as horrible as he is, the concept of Xander is necessary to balance out the team in terms of like you do need a baseline human there. It's kind of different for the MCU, and he was smart to recognize that, play down those characters, and I think it has set a really important tone in terms of like there's ways to give you perspective characters and give you kind of closer to normal and closer to mundane without going full human who now we have to make up excuses for why she's there. Like Darcy, it kind of makes no sense why she's at the WandaVision site. I know she gets her graduate degree and is a scientist, but it's kind of very nebulous science.
It's
and
mostly because I'm attracted to Kat Dennings. Like,
yeah, I mean, she's perfect. She is. Really my dream now is for her to interact with Death, because Aubrey Plaza interacting with Kat Dennings would just be absolutely perfect. Also because Kat Dennings plays Death in the Sandman audio drama, so I do want to see them interact. I want to point out that like the original so on the nose it's ridiculous casting for the MCU is the original casting for the MCU. It's Robert Downey Jr.
Being literally Iron Man.
Yeah, so there is a tradition of this, and I don't think it's bad to do it. I have no problem with any of the I love Joe Locke. Like this is all and I like I said, I'm still on board for the Fantastic Four, even if I wish it was John Krasinski. I just like sometimes people are like, no, we can't do that. It's too hammy. It's too fan servicey. It's actually like what the MCU is based on and built on. We wouldn't have the and like so much so that now they're going back to he's not the blueprint for Doctor Doom, but we're going back to him because it's so important. So I do think that it can always be a thing.
And I just want to say that I genuinely love that you brought up that Robert Downey Jr. was the original on the nose casting, because, and this is going to sound really a little bit terrible, I think maybe, but I did not want Joe Locke to play Wiccan. I didn't want it because I sometimes feel like when you give in to that casting decision, you've made a terrible choice. But this man, I mean, this kid, but this man, his love for this material, this show, these co-stars, these writers, his respect for the craft, his understanding of source material. I could have no interest in this actor by talent, which his talent is fantastic. But I am so impressed with his maturity, with his professionalism. One of the things that I sometimes come down on celebrities for is like, I have a very limited mouthpiece and I still get hate mail. And so I still think to myself, maybe think casually about the things you say. And I do sometimes think people in the MCU don't show that sort of deftness. But one thing that everybody in this goddamn cast has done is play fan love, has play the game that fans ask them to play without ever compromising who they are. Patti LuPone, since I am literally 6 years old, singing Don't Cry For Me, Argentina into a microphone that I carried around in my purse. My parents literally used to watch Life Goes On with me because Patti LuPone has been like my actual fucking everything since I am 6 or 8 years old. It's like literally hard for me to, like, I grew up a child obsessed with the UK version of Sunset Boulevard. This woman literally wrote my childhood, and to see her be exactly who she has always been does not compromise Patti LuPone on this press tour. It really is one of the most fulfilled I've ever been by fandom. And I think Joe Locke's energy is in many ways to thank. He really gave them something to believe in, and he made me believe.
But I gotta say, like, Patti LuPone could have done this whole show and been great and been sort of horrible on the press tour. Like,
because she usually is.
Yeah,
Did you hear her on The View talking about Nicole Scherzinger in Sunset Boulevard? As she put it, well, I'll see it. And they're like, well, it's getting great reviews. And she literally replied with, there's no accounting for taste.
Yes.
I'll let you know what I think.
Yeah. And to be fair, she is she is excited to see the show when she's talking about it.
She's Norma Desmond for real.
I know. She's excited to shit on the show. But that was a funny moment too. But, you know, she could have gone and collected a paycheck and very easily said, no, I don't know. You know, and she has said, like, I didn't read the comics or anything, but she didn't say it in that way of like, no, you idiot. Why would I read comic books? She said it in that way of like, no, I showed up. Like, she really could have been more Gwyneth Paltrow about it. And just sort of like, I mean, I love Gwyneth Paltrow as Pepper Potts, and I don't like Gwyneth Paltrow as a person. And it bums me out because she acts so much against Robert Downey Jr. and Jon Favreau. Yeah. Who are both very clearly into it and love the MCU and are here. And so sometimes she's just kind of a sticky wicket, and it just kills an interview because she doesn't know anything and she doesn't care to, and she doesn't love it. She loves the money.
She's not always kind about it. And
yeah, exactly.
She's at best like, it's fun, it's cute, it's a lark. But then the bigger problem for me with that clip of her being like, I wasn't in Spider-Man.
Yeah.
That it wasn't funny for her end. It was kind of like rude.
Yeah. And it would have just been really cute if she'd been like, there's so much I don't even know what I'm in, but I love that I'm there. And it really wasn't that. It was like borderline frustration.
I just love that she decided to consciously uncouple from popularity.
And Patti LuPone really could have done a similar thing, and Lilia still would have been a great character, and the show would have been fine. But the fact that she was really into it, the fact that the week after her last episode, she did a direct into the camera thank you, which, like, that's Patti LuPone. Like, she, again, didn't have to do that. She could have done everything else and not that. Like, that's even above and beyond for her. That's above and beyond for anybody, let alone her, who, again, can seem a little prickly at times. So, I mean, the vibes were just immaculate. Their press touring was fantastic. Their off-screen chemistry matches their on-screen chemistry, which is really important. Oh, I agree. I kind of think it is, but like
laughing with, I cannot think of her name. I'm so embarrassed. Who plays Alice?
I always forget her name as well. she's the least famous one, and there's a lot of people to juggle.
But there, Sashir and she in interviews, it is like literally watching best friends volley. It is so tight.
Well, and I love the groupings that they have. It's Ali
on.
Thank you.
It's Ali, Sashir, Deborah, and I think they have a fourth person with them usually. And then it's Aubrey and Patty, and then it's Catherine and Joe. And so I especially love seeing clips of the cavalcade of the others.
Yeah.
Because of them, like, they were asked who has the loosest lips of the cast, and immediately Patty spoiled everything. We were like, we didn't even know we were allowed to say we're on the show, and she's on The View naming our characters. And I think more than anything, it speaks to me mostly of it truly depends on the project and the people that you work with, because I'm sure, yes, some Marvel projects really are nightmares, but this was such a great group of actors working together. Jack Schaefer clearly takes such good care of all of her people, and I think that definitely helped.
Thank you for saying her name. Jack Schaefer is somebody who too often we invisible the women that create things that are so important, which is why when you do have a woman like an Amy Sherman Palladino or a Shonda, where who we should just start calling her Shonda, it should absolutely be Madonna Cher territory. When you have women who boldly, KEVO, what an incredible image, boldly, bravely create ideas. And they are, when we talk about women aren't given the same latitude and longitude that men are. When a man tells a story about, when a man tells, Hung or the life of R.J. Berger, like, oh, that's a dude talking about dude things. What a dude moment, dude. But when a woman talks about motherhood, talks about what it means to be a Stevie Nicks in a world of Fleetwood Macs, we automatically say that the thing she's talking about by its yonic or sapphic status is less important than its masculine counterpart. And so to give Jack Schaefer the unlimited opportunity to speak from a perspective that highlights my experience as a queer male who gets real fucking femme sometimes, to see women represented so beautifully, women of so many different spectrums, I felt truly like I honest, and this is just such a dumb thing to be like, I would have loved it if one of the witches could have been a trans woman, could have just represented that other part of femininity that is so kept out of super heroics. But one of the things is every one of these people would never be allowed to be a superhero in the Avengers without being asterisk that one. And Jack Schaefer made the most popular Marvel show in the last 5 years using people who could have never led a movie. And that says to me that Jack Schaefer's writing is the power. And I think everybody should just write this genius a blank check already. I cast a vote for Kamala, but I would have loved to cast a vote for Jack Schaefer and also to kill Jason Todd. Thank you, Gail Simone, for bringing that up today. Best thing that happened to me all day.
Well, and production and directing. Like, here's the other thing. This is the cheapest show they've ever done. And the payoff is insane in terms of the hype that it's generated. Like, being an inexpensive, comparatively, show for Marvel right now is kind of a huge deal because they're so expensive to produce, and they often do not provide the return on investment, just in terms of like dominating the news cycle, hype, making us happy with our Disney Plus subscriptions, developing material for future things. And I'm still marveling about the fact that people bitched about how the sets look cheap and that it was a story. There's a story reason.
Have you people ever seen Into the Woods?
Well, yeah, I mean, no, of course, a lot of people haven't, but that's the whole point, is like the fact that she managed to do it and then actually have there be a reason why the set looks cheap. That's incredible. That's genius level writing, production, directing, all of it. And I just, it's not that I don't think the Russo brothers should be doing so much cool stuff. It's just that I don't think they should be here anymore because I don't like Marvel's fear of moving on. I don't like it in the comics. I don't like it in the MCU. I think, you have to know when it's time to move the era. And then, sometimes you can wait 30 years and bring somebody back, but it's not most people. It's not your Chris Claremonts, it's your Ann Nescentis. It's the people you need to bring back because they didn't get the fair shot they deserved. It's not the people that you're hoping to recapture the magic with. Recapturing the magic is very difficult. Get rid of the Russo brothers, give me Jack Schaefer. Let Jack Schaefer deliver the next big thing. And I also want to point out too that I feel like this is further proof that the Marvels could have been a huge success had they been able to promote the way that Agatha All Along was able to. Again, it's another cast that I think has phenomenal chemistry together. The creative team was really fantastic. There was a lot to say. There were a lot of reasons for everybody to get hyped. And it also, one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot is how this show came at a very opportune time for it culturally. Like the fact that this is Brat's summer, the fact that we have Chapel Roan on stage a lot more, so we're seeing a lot more public facing pop culture queerness. There are just so many things that this slots into so well. And I don't know that the same could be true for something like the Marvels in the year that it came out, but I do think we might have had the opportunity to see it's how culture sort of comes together on so many different levels. And this show really got to engage with that, both in the show itself and in the press tour and everything else that was happening. The Marvels never got that opportunity. And I don't know, something about this always makes me think about the fact that I feel like the Marvels could have been as big as this and as big a cultural touchstone of last summer, if not for the fact that they couldn't promote.
Well, and you even said last summer, it came out in November, which is always a problem. And I love that you pointed to the money as a factor as well, because I really love the Marvels for what even came out. But the thing that always makes me scratch my head about the Marvels is that goddamn price tag. I can't fathom how that movie was that expensive. It didn't need to be. And no wonder it didn't make any money back. No wonder it struggled so much because of, I can't even fathom. So I really appreciate them celebrating and reveling in how much they were able to get this in at a good cost. Because I don't think it looks cheap. I didn't think that the set looked cheap. It felt intentional at every point. And then the more you get into the plot of the show, it becomes even more clearly intentional. So, I think that also is just something where people always find something to complain about. I think positioning this near Halloween was smart, but now there are people who are saying, oh, it only did well because it was near Halloween and it's witches. Well, okay. Yeah, that's called smart marketing. I don't know what you want. Some people just want, to complain as part of it.
Yeah, and let them. I think you're exactly right in terms of they programmed it for the best possible time for it to come out. What's unfortunate, you made another good point, is that they didn't do that for the Marvels. Again, it could have been a summer blockbuster. And you're right, it probably was too expensive. But again, the strike was a huge part of it too. It had so much stuff counting against it. But I really think about the two, because the thing that people said about it was none of that stuff. It was that people don't want women-led movies, and it was just so woman focused that it wasn't relatable for anybody. And I just think we see with this show that is not the case. Of course, there's going to be people that have that attitude, but women's stories can be interesting no matter what. And then the really smart thing here is this is kind of a procedural adventure. It has a video game set up. There's going to be a new trial every week, and we're gonna there are touchstones of just plot moving forward that have nothing to do with gender or experience or anything. It's just we know we're going to the next thing next week. And I think that's really easy to follow a lot of the time. And because most stories are male dominated, we see so many that are successful that follow that exact same formula. We don't really think about the fact that it's the formula that's working, not the fact that it's got a cool leading man. So I think the fact that this had a really good formula made it really accessible to watch. And then what the writing team got to do was share very, share experiences that are relatable because we're all emotional creatures, but are very specific to women.
I think that's even part of the problem when you have so few shows led by women. I think WandaVision is, for all the ways it's remembered as Wanda's show, equal parts Wanda and Vision, even though Vision was clearly a secondary element, but like White Vision, it's
called WandaVision.
Exactly. And then
it's not called Wanda's Circus of Fun.
All of the other characters in the MCU lean male. The female characters don't overwhelmingly control the narrative the way their male counterparts do. I think even about Captain Marvel, and I think about the fact that so much of Captain Marvel is about designing a film where she could be someone who stands up against Thanos. It's not a matter of creating a film for Captain Marvel. It's a matter of creating a film that supports the MCU. So the bravery of taking the opportunity to design these women's stories so carefully, it really is, I think, in part why this show drew in a very different audience in a positive way.
The other thing about Captain Marvel is they pair her with a man the entire time. She's with Nick Fury for basically the entire movie. And when she's not, she's with Jude Law. So while it does build up her character to show that she's at the level, it does it through hand-holding her with Nick Fury. And don't get me wrong, it was super cool to see Samuel L. Jackson. They have fantastic chemistry, but even that was a little scared.
And it was really, I think, by that token, so to speak, really important that the male inclusion on this be from a queer male character. I really appreciated that. I appreciated the fact that he wasn't something different. He was a witch. There was a little back and forth in the show itself of, is he part of the coven? Mostly because he was underage, more than because he was a boy. But in all of the press stuff, in the performance that the coven did together at D23, he was included in all of it. And I really appreciated, there's so many conversations, so many different opinions and blah, blah, blah about whether or not gay people need to be playing gay characters. For all the debate, this is one where I really appreciate that it is played by a gay male. I really think that actually is important. And to go back to Nico's point earlier, I think that is a huge part of the joy that he has playing this character. He's joked now that he maybe never wants to play a gay character again because he's done Heartstopper and this, and now that's a lot. And, he's joking. And also, deserves to branch out. But I think that's why it's important for straight actor, for the most part. They could even get why it's important, but it's not the same thing as it being something that, they lived and experienced. And especially someone of Joe Locke's age. He's about the same age as the character in our universe. It's been almost 20 years. And so he really grew up with a character like Wiccan. And that's been such an important part of the male and queer inclusion on this story. I would have even appreciated if they ribbed him a little bit. The one moment that really stuck out for me was during the tarot reading, and he called himself the queer ant. And to borrow a line from Golden Girls, I really wish Lilia had said, "Kid, please tell your whole generation a little of that goes a long way." Because, sometimes it can be annoying. Everything can be annoying, and you deserve to be told when you're kind of being annoying as much as you deserve to be supported.
Speaking of annoying, I got a notification from a website that I tend to think is hit or miss, but we are hearing that Blade is going to move to 2026, where it is going to be somehow connected to Spidey 4 and Doomsday. One of the things is the further they move Blade out, the closer we are getting to Blade is going to be the MCU Golden Girls. we are hitting Cocoon levels of this cast is going to be a little older.
Mahershala is 50 years old.
And he is a king, but...
And I love him. I've loved him since he was on the 4400, and I thought he was great since then. But he seemed like an old man back in 2004 on the 4400. And so the fact that he's going to be playing this ageless, daywalking vampire, I'm not sure it works. I'm not sure it worked when they announced it, as excited as I was for loving it.
I maybe would have cast him as Jericho Drum.
I love that.
Dr. Voodoo.
Dr. Voodoo, one of the most undersung characters in the MCU as a result of not having really caught on in the Marvel Universe until about 20 years ago for as vaunted and long-lasting a character as he is.
Yeah. Yeah, Blade's weird. I mean, when Blade's going to have to be like... it's a fast food restaurant. What are they going to do? I don't know. Like, it can't be a movie at this point. I don't know what we're going to do here. But okay, 2026, sure, whatever.
Well, and that's when they're saying that we're going to get Vision Quest. The follow-up to Agatha is going to be the third element in this. Okay, no. I have a weird, and I have to do the hands.
You got to do magic hands.
One of the things that I'm struggling with is Jack Schaefer is the unique voice behind WandaVision, is the unique voice behind Agatha All Along. But what binds them together? Multiverse of Madness, a film by a guy who has nothing to do with the MCU. And so, like, we're talking about how what made Patti LuPone's involvement in the MCU special is that she was like, oh, I'm in that. Fun. And like in this I am a uniquely elite New Yorker since the 1970s way. She just sort of spagos her way through life. Oh no, Wolfgang is going to make me a custom plate. And so I find myself thinking about how Patti LuPone was like, I'm going to Patti LuPone in the Marvel Universe and it's going to be wonderful. And yet there are people who directed films in this franchise who were like, I'm going to come into the Marvel Universe and pay it no respect. And it's tough because, Kevo, you were talking about when earlier, you were talking about when people take characters from the comics and give them new legs. And just look at what the Foxverse has done for Vuk. But beyond that,
let's put some of that on the actor. Just saying.
Absolutely. I would completely agree, except I want to put half of it on her makeup artist for giving her no forehead that could move. But
just one single color.
One single color. But speaking of people who did not ring out at one single color, Sam Raimi's Rainbow of Marvel, whether it's the early days of his time on Spider-Man or the honest to God mess he made of Multiverse of Madness, I wonder how it reads when you look at something like, for a comic comparison, Ed Brubaker's Captain America, and you have to slot in somebody as extreme as Millar's Civil War to make Captain America make sense, so that when Cap dies and Bucky takes over, there's this organic idea, this organic exchange of idea. I don't think that... Okay, for all of the ways that Jack Schaefer paid respect to the Spider-Man trilogy and even Evil Dead in many ways with WandaVision, I don't know that I feel that Raimi paid Jack Schaefer the same respect with this necessary middle component. My favorite moment of the entirety of WandaVision is, you're the Scarlet Witch, you're going to destroy us all. And like, that moment comes true in a movie that does not respect these two brilliant moments of fiction.
I definitely want this to be part of a wider talking about the MCU right now video. But to me, that speaks in so many ways to how far the MCU has evolved over the last 16 years, to the point where it kind of is I keep saying it's basically just comics now, where, different titles are produced by different people, and they're not always going to sync up in terms of tone, and these storytellers aren't always going to communicate properly. But what comes out, and you kind of have to work from there. I know Sam Raimi, as a fact, has said that he did not pay much mind to WandaVision, knew nothing about it, told the story that he told. And I rewatched all of WandaVision into Multiverse of Madness before Agatha. I liked Multiverse of Madness more than I remembered. It is really sloppy and weird and not great at times. And I also very strongly agree with your sentiments of it feels like Sam Raimi just came in and did whatever he wanted. But I'm trying to be better at recognizing, that's just what's going to happen. And now we can have someone else come in like Jack Schaefer to push the Maximoff corner of this universe in a little bit of a better direction. I have hopes for Vision Quest. I don't know. Terry Metalis kind of needs to stay away from robot people. But, and Vision Quest even itself would only be one step in a further direction of who knows. I love that Joe Locke is so on board to keep playing Wiccan ongoingly and do stuff with that character. And so it's really going to depend on so many people who get their hands on these characters over time.
Well, and you know what? When I think about the nature of the universe that inspired the Marvel universe, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it is 1,000 people crafting individual moments across a dozen books in a year, and then you have 6 people doing some of these moments. Wolverine appears more than the Scarlet Witch. So when you're talking about the movies that feature Wolverine, the comics that source him, 7,000, 8,000, and obviously I'm being a little silly. But when you're talking about the Scarlet Witch, the comics that feature her, not just have her in them, you're looking at way less. So when somebody like Jack Schaefer comes along and says, I have a voice for this character, we all immediately go, wow, thank you for giving form to this person who, in many ways, the bigger populace didn't understand. When somebody comes along like James Manigold, right, with a voice for Wolverine, we are impressed, we are grateful, but we knew who Wolverine was. Something that, just to bring up Ellen Pompeo again, as a fellow producer on Grey's Anatomy, she is someone who has worked to develop a character across many years. I am painfully critical of this writer, but Alan Heinberg spoke for all white cis gays in one moment in 2005, where all of us said, okay, wow, I'm boring in a comic book. Wow. Oh, these are all of my kinks? I just want a big dude who can shapeshift in the locker room? Oh, my mom's a strong lady? Ooh. And Alan Heinberg delivered to us sort of like the quick download PDF file of what it meant to be envious of white twinks in 2005. And when you think about the number of incredible voices who have come on to these characters in the years since, your Kieran Gillens, your Anthony Oliveras, to bring up somebody who is much more recent, but to even stretch out and think about the bigger voices that have taken the time to feature these characters, like Al Ewing making such a big deal of a character like Wiccan. I'm reminded that the experience isn't just who created them, it's the levels that get added as you go on. And when I think about who Agatha has become, when I think about who Wiccan is, and, I'm just going to put it out there, Wiccan's dad is played by the hottest guy on TV.
Oh my God, so happy for that.
One more time.
Well,
the hottest guy on the spinoff Private Practice is Billy's dad. And it is just really cool to see all of the ways that every character can evolve, whether they were Claremont loved and focused, as TK mentioned earlier, or not. Kevo, what you got?
I also am sure that I've realized it at varying times over my life, but I really don't think it has ever hit me as hard as it is hitting me this month that Alan Heinberg created Billy and Teddy, a scrawny, Jewish young man and a blonde, sleeveless hulkling. And this is like the template for so much of my personality. This is where I started so much of my writing and shipping. And it's so funny. I also think it's so funny that he's having a Adam Brody sans.
He's having a rat summer.
I kind of really need Adam Brody to play an adult variant Wiccan in Secret Wars.
I would cast him as an adult Novar.
I mean, yeah, if you want to give him a real job. Everybody doesn't need jobs all the time. I'm just saying a cameo would be nice. Like, I don't actually want anything from Tom Cruise other than to show up for 5 seconds to punch Robert Downey Jr. Doom as his own Tom Cruise Iron Man. I think
it's just for having 2 teeth in the middle.
Yeah.
I do just want to say that one of the things that I love about you're pointing out this particular relationship, if you would just hop back to the OC for a second.
Yeah, no, all the time.
All the time. What is significant is I am specifically the Teddy to your Billy, but you're a lot more the Ryan to my Seth. And one of the things that Alan Heinberg sought to create with the Young Avengers was the opportunity for anybody to see who they were in anyone. If you want to know which classic Young Avenger I am, yeah, I'm Kate. I'm the one who thinks that all of you are idiots and don't know why you won't just listen to me. But like, I'm Kate. But then when you get to the Kieran Gillen Young Avengers, I'm Novar because I stick it in everyone. But if you're taking a step back and you look at the Children's Crusade Young Avengers, I am much more Teddy, putting myself in this position of feeling like I never get to be myself and am trapped between multiple worlds. One of the things that I think that Joe Locke and the entire cast of Agatha All Along captured is a comic book sensibility of multiple iterations of a single character. Because these actors had to move in and out of modalities, as did the theme song, The Ballad of the Witch's Road, we saw a song be powerful as sort of like, I guess, almost like a Christian madrigal. We saw it be powerful in the form of almost like a Delirium Kirsty Hawkshaw-led ethereal track on Network Records. We saw it be a classic rock track in the form of something, Glenn Frey would write for us, like, because you should always refer to that. But I think that one of the things that I am the most excited about, one of the reasons that I am the most eager to do 2 broadcasts about one show, something we haven't done in a very long time, is because I feel like I have a multitudinous self in Agatha. My love of time travel was appealed to by what might be the single greatest episode of any MCU program ever. I mean, what kind of day it has been for Lilia Calderu. What a fucking moment. Episode 7 is perhaps one of the greatest experiences I have ever had watching a show. Like, literally in the middle of it, I'm in tears, and I turned to Kevo and I was like, Kevo, can we please go react to this live? I am having so many feels about my favorite actress of all time being in the best MCU episode ever. And when you think about all of the selves that they were able to encapsulate with Lilia, that then Patty had to interpolate all of these actresses playing this one character, you can really come to see where Jack Schaefer created. Okay, so for those of you who don't have art history degrees, under the Mona Lisa, there are 16 versions of the Mona Lisa. You can literally see the multiple levels of acrylic paint under each one of these iterations.
I also think it's really funny that, we get used to like Christopher Nolan rules for how we're going to do our time travel stories, and I think they're all horrible. But I love a time travel story. Jack Schaefer also gave us a shockingly easy to understand but still complex time travel story. And again, I think that it comes from that place of like, this is such a male dominated industry and men get so precious and self-important and covetous of a certain level of respect for their intellect that they write not because this is the
It's
best
Sergeant Pepper syndrome.
Yeah, like not because this is the best time travel story, but because I am so smart, I'm going to tell you what I thought of. And Jack Schaefer wrote this like a woman. Like, I'm not going to tell you how smart I am. It's just a great image.
It is my favorite. It is the greatest superhero team of all time.
Yeah. It truly is. I mean, like, the only bummer of the show is that this coven is not going to get to show up and fight Doctor Doom, or maybe they will. Maybe maybe Death will decide they all need to come back. Oh
my God! Did you read the article where Jack Schaefer was like, the moment where Agatha dies is the moment she decides to kiss the love of her life and kissing Rio, and everything else is just like artifacting the moment where Agatha agreed she was ready to die.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought it up because I do want to I want to go there now.
Plaza gave the second best entire career performance of her career as Rio.
Truly, I mean, absolutely amazing. And I'm putting a pin in Aubrey because I want to talk about something that has come up a lot in my socials and in my feeds. But I do want to talk about Aubrey because there's a huge thing to talk about. There's two huge things I want to talk about there. But was really shocked that some people I really respect hated the ending of this show. And, a lot of people said that it was cheap and really commercialized, and the sort of tale of Agatha and her redemption arc is ruined by the fact that she doesn't die, which of course she doesn't, because they want her back to star in everything. And
it was the only thing Jack Schaefer was told at the beginning was she wiped a ghost at the end. I
don't care. Yes, sure, whatever. I want to talk about what people don't seem to understand is Agatha is not a hero. This is not Steve Rogers dying. This is not a noble sacrifice. Also, not every person who learns a lesson or has a redemptive moment or experiences catharsis experiences total catharsis, personality change. Bad people who do shitty things every day, people who lie and steal, love their children. People who have treated you horribly, who have mugged you, grieve their dying child and would do anything to bring that child back, and can experience maybe even regretting the fact that they mugged you and wish they hadn't done it, and then go do other crimes. Bad people lead incredible internal lives. We are not all beholden to a journey where, and even in fiction, yeah, I know it's great to do a redemptive arc, and that's really fun and beautiful and poetic, and there has to be sacrifice in the story. A lot of what people were saying as well is Agatha should have died because there should have been sacrifice, and now there were no stakes and there were no consequences. They only killed people who didn't matter, except for my greatest regret is not, that my greatest regret is that this coven is not going to continue on. My thinking was, this is all over. However it ends, they all walk out of it being like, I guess we're sisters now. And now that's a superhero team. Like, obviously it's not the Avengers, but that's a book. That's a superhero team. I imagine we're getting that book.
This is the Midnight Daughters right here.
Yeah, 100%. So like, for me, that's a huge sacrifice that you took Alice and Lilia off the board. That's a huge loss. I mean, Patti LuPone was so good and would have come back for something. She's obviously not going to be Robert Downey Jr., but they could have gotten her back for something. So we did have sacrifice. That it wasn't Agatha, of course, commercialism is a part of it. But also Catherine Hahn is great. Also, this happens to Agatha Harkness. So just for everybody who's shitting on it, I actually thought, even if you factor in the fact that capitalism is a part of it and we're not losing this actor, I still think it was a beautiful story. It's a story about a woman who does bad things and still loved her child and still is sad about that, and also loved her lover who she also could never love. There's just so much complexity there, and the fact that she lived... Sorry, go ahead.
I think my biggest complaint is just the pacing on it was weird.
Yeah, the
and I
pacing
feel
was a little
like
tough. I would have liked to have given them 10 episodes.
the fact that the last episode was so much more epilogue than it was episode,
Yeah.
the exorcism of Agatha almost felt tagged on, like they felt like they needed an extra step to lead to that last scene. They needed an extra moment of action. And so it felt a little, I don't want to say forced, but it didn't really feel like it was, the energy felt off. It didn't really feel like it was the actual original intent. But I think the story overall, no, I really agree with you. I think I keep thinking so much about how the ending has changed my perception of having watched it in a way that I really harken back to WandaVision and haven't felt in many ways since that, where everything I was thinking about the show as I was in it is so different from how I now feel at the end.
Yeah. And I agree. Like, for me, I would have liked to have given them maybe another episode. I would have played around with it a little bit. Another really big loss to me was Jen Kale gets a 30-second epilogue. It
felt like they decided at the last second she shouldn't die.
Yeah, well, I don't know what happened there, but the fact that she just kind of crawls out of the ground and flies away. By the way, folks, this is an incredible character in the comics. Weirdly, like, when you look at all of her appearances, she has a shockingly interesting life. She is cousin to Ghost Rider. She hangs out with Man-Thing a lot, which, again, storytelling potential off the charts for the MCU. She has her own Darkhold-esque grimoire that is Atlantean, that she, like, I'm Marvel, call us tomorrow. We can write this. We got this. This also, we can throw in like 8 different Ghost Riders into the mix. This is just such a good character. I'm so excited because I do think she'll have a little comic renaissance. But she has been, she's teamed up with X-Force. She's been in Thunderbolt. She's been in Avengers. Like I said, she hangs out with Man-Thing. She is a Kale, which is what Johnny Blaze and Danny Ketch both actually are. Don't ask why they have different names than their brothers, and they're also not their original name. It's comics nonsense, but yeah, there is so much to do with this character, and absolutely I want so much more of her, but I also want more Sashir. She was so game, she was so fun, she brought an energy that is, to me, kind of fresh in the MCU. She does, a lot of these women felt like not MCU people who became MCU people by doing their show, which is kind of the opposite of a Gwyneth Paltrow, who is not an MCU person. And even though she just kills it with Robert Downey Jr. as Pepper, she never becomes an MCU person. And Pepper never feels like she can do more than she does because the vibe is off.
Well, and to that end, I even think that so many of the actresses here being sourced from comedy.
Yeah.
Even Heartstopper, which I understand is just like, I don't know. I want to say this lovingly. If you are creating something for young people, it is essentially at all times comedy. We create dramatic shows full of humor, and there are very few dramatic shows aimed at younger audiences that do not focus on the quality of comedy. And so I think that there is an argument to be made that everybody here had all of the dramatic chops that go with a great comedic actor doing drama. But what we got was great dramatic actors who are known for their comedy. And that is one of the things that I think made this better. When Lilia shows up, and, there is no way Jen can understand that moment. And we can't either, because we're experiencing it as Lilia did, in an unfortunate, unreliable narrator way. Almost like a, this is such a gross term, and I'm so sorry, but like almost like an Alzheimer's narrator way. She doesn't remember the thing she just did, and we're treating it as an old woman, so it's her feebleness, not the quality of what's happening to her. We denigrate her experience because we assume it's an old person being crazy. And then to get that revelation, to understand it is actually a genius being further along than we are in the experience, the levels to which this was performed so outstrips the basic quality of comedy. I personally think that in many ways, the casual person overestimates Aubrey Plaza. I think what the average person thinks about Aubrey Plaza is an average actress being average. No offense. But what I've seen Aubrey Plaza do is some of the greatest art I've ever seen in my life. Her performance as Shadow King is literally the greatest comic book villain of all time. And if you don't know to delve into that, you might see Rio and think, oh, she's just being a dumb character from Parks and Rec. But to understand that she is not just being Janet Snakehole, this is creating a truly evil person who has beautiful intent. It is so breathtaking to consider the quality of the acting here, regardless of where they got their starts.
And this moment really also changed the game, because I really liked her the entire time before, and I thought she was, doing a great death, but that you see that she was different before she met Agatha. And it's, so the other, I don't want to say elephant in the room to me, but I did mention that I want to see her interact with Darcy because Kat Dennings has also played Death. For a lot of us, Neil Gaiman's Death is Death. And now that applies to TV audiences too, because people have now seen Sandman. Not enough people saw Dead Boy Detectives, but people saw Dead Boy Detectives.
That's Neil Gaiman's cancellation right there.
People listen to the Audible series, people read the comics. So people know Neil Gaiman's Death. That has been a character for over 30 years. And it's a beautiful character. The sound of her wings, I think, taught us all something, and really changed lives. I mean, it was one of the first things where I really confronted death in a certain way. And that death is a beautiful, soft, loving character. And what's really wild here is the first interaction that you get where the characters serve the similar function of being death. The thing is, you can't write that uniquely because it is the universal experience. So the moment where Alice goes, "That's all the time I get," we have that moment from Sandman too, but that death and this death handle it very differently, because the Marvel Universe's Death is a different person and absolutely should be. But because we are talking about literally a universal factor here. It'd be like if breathing or eating showed up on the show. It's the only thing that is completely universal. So there is this degree to which it's always going to be, you're coming with me. No matter what, we're leaving. You're walking out this door with me, and I can be sweet or I can be, saucy, but the same thing is happening. And
I appreciate that with Alice, we saw at least a somewhat softer side.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. She reminded her, you're a protector witch. You
did it.
Protecting someone. There's a meme going around that people suspect that the reason that Rio showed up for the summoning is that she was in the neighborhood collecting Sharon, and Sharon Davis was probably talking about how she'd been at this party, and that's why that's her first line is, "I heard you guys were having a party." I imagine she was not very cruel to Sharon Davis, but she's also a dynamic figure, and I love that she has the other side of that battle with Agatha. That's so fascinating, and now we have Aubrey to be able to play this character in who knows what else.
Well, and that's even the magic. When we think about characters like Wiccan, when we think about characters like Jen, when we think about characters like Rio, they're going to have such a vaunted experience in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, whether it's by fandom talking about them or actual appearances. Characters like Lilia, they exist in a moment. We become so attached to the death of Lilia that Patti LuPone's continued appearances as this character would cheapen it, but the echo of Lilia will continue in the comics in a significant way, even though it'll probably be a very different Lilia. Guys, you have no idea. Casting Patti LuPone as comics Lilia is like casting a slab of cement as a smoothie. I guess you can get there with a blender, but I'm not sure what the thought was.
Yeah, I mean, and it's also like the character is not, but it's kind of the same thing, and it's interesting because like with Lilia, Patti LuPone is nothing like the character, and the two Lilias are nothing like each other, and never will be. And now that's never going to happen again. Sashir Zamata is also nothing like Jennifer Kale, who is a blonde white woman, who is like a fully active witch, who is not a potions witch. That's not a thing in the MCU.
I'm a green witch. Okay, well, that's one specific James Robinson book. Calm down.
But then she gets glow back and flies away.
Oh, so, yeah, totally. I mean, like, don't get me wrong, but like that what I was getting to is like now she actually can be and that's why I'm like, please let me write the show where she is hanging out with Man-Thing, where she is, you know, calling her cousin and telling him what a loser he is, and hanging out with Kushala. You know, I got Ghost Rider ideas, and I actually really do wonder. Ghost Rider is a tough franchise, man. Tougher than Blade. I want them to bring Ghost Rider into the MCU, but I just see so many ways it can go terribly, and I don't see a lot of good entry points for Ghost Rider. I think they were so lucky with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but also it was weird and it didn't always make sense. And
well, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
She has been to a plane that exists only in the mind of the what is his stupid title in the Marvel
Demiurge. Yeah.
Demiurge.
Yeah.
She has existed in the plane that only belongs to the Demiurge.
Yeah.
What if her rage at what Agatha did to her for 100 years builds in her until she is a spirit of vengeance?
Well, that's, I mean, like,
what if Ghost Riders start from this beautiful, angry woman?
That's exactly what I was getting at. I think this is a better entry point into the Kales, Catches, and Blazes.
And this is why you're my favorite comic writer.
This actually could save what would almost certainly be not a great franchise. Again, like, the franchise itself could be good. You have to figure that out, but it could be. The entry into the franchise, the pitch of it's a guy on a motorcycle and his head is on fire, and he hates everybody and wants to kill everyone, but in a heroic way. I
heard that's Ben's next job on Grey's Anatomy.
Ghost Rider is nonsense, but it's also anything you want it to be. It also, like, it could be supernatural, the show, like you could do a Winchester's type thing, but it's a difficult sell just putting another boring white guy with his head on fire on screen. This woman as the entry point, I think, could absolutely change the game for the Ghost Rider franchise, for the Kales, for a lot of stuff.
Without being maybe a little too excited about the possibility.
Yeah.
Just the idea that we would have a black Ghost Rider, that we would have a black voice celebrating the idea that you could be greater than you were and become something better. I don't want to be reductive, but if we would take the opportunity to connect the idea of being better than you were, and which is automatically Ghost Riders, and connect it to the black community through this unbelievable actress, I would rather see Ghost Rider connected to Black Panther than see Ghost Rider connected generically to Mephisto, where he is just, I am hate and I am rage. But honest to goodness, the idea of African and the sum totality of cultural black identity magic could do so much for the Ghost Rider fandom and do so much for the property. I would love to see them take the opportunity to embrace the cultural choice they've made with casting and evolve this property to a beautiful new place.
I completely agree. There's absolutely no reason that Johnny Blaze or Danny Ketch needs to be white.
Absolutely.
Like, there's no, and especially them who, you know, there are certain characters who, heritage-wise, you really the person wouldn't be black. That's very rare, but there are some experiences depicted in comics where you're like, this character needs to be
Black Donald Pierce would be a literal nightmare.
But the Blazes have no connection to anything. They're very generically white. You could go a few different ways with their ancestor Noble Kale. For one thing, he could still be white because it's so many generations removed that like it doesn't matter at all. But also, he could be a black man in America.
The history of slavery in
exactly,
America
and
to the Ghost Rider mythos.
And how revenge plays into slavery, like there's how vengeance plays into slavery. There's you're all set. But making the rest of the Kales in Marvel black,
do it.
I absolutely do it. Absolutely do it. Because then, it's funny if we do that. Alejandra not white, Robbie not white, Kushala not white. We get to dig deep into the Ghost Rider universe.
My God, and Michael Battolino is still the outlier.
Yes, thank you. That would be absolutely perfect. The cop Ghost Rider is the only white one, and yeah, I mean, like, we are good to go. Except, you know who the ultimate Michael Battolino would be? Terry Crews.
Where is better?
So what I love about this line of discourse specifically is one of the things that I have most loved about the MCU, and that I think is so important about things like these and adaptations. Something that I think about a lot is the Power Rangers 2017 film, and how hyped that cast was to continue playing those characters, seeing those new versions of the characters. And something that they were huge proponents of was introducing Tommy as a female character in the next film. And as someone whose favorite Power Ranger was always Tommy, whether he was the Green Ranger or the White Ranger, I really loved that too. I thought the idea of introducing Tommy as a love interest for the queer trainee that they introduced in that film was awesome. It's about honoring the spirit of the lore and the story. It meant so much more to me that they used the words Zeo Crystal in that film than anything they did to change the canon and try doing new things with the story. And that's kind of how I view stuff that the MCU does, and something like this and this iteration of Jennifer Kale potentially giving birth to this whole new direction for Ghost Rider lore. And specifically from you guys, who I popped the link into the chat, you have a whole 3-part series currently of History of the Ghost Riders. Because of how much you love that lore and that character. And here you are saying, do a whole new thing from scratch. Do it. It would be fascinating. It would be awesome. It's about honoring the story of the character and doing fun and inventive things with it, rather than just a one-for-one translation.
Also, I know, like, when you strike gold, follow the gold. Like, the gold here is Sashir Zamata and the Jennifer Kale that they created here. And again, Ghost Rider is not gold. Like, Blade is all, like, I'm so glad that we got some Blade news here, because they're really comparable in that they can be super cool. Don't get me wrong.
And I really, I want to respect what you were avoiding saying. I will take the moment as a Cuban man,
sure,
as a person who is a very white Cuban man, to say that, like, yeah, as a white person, I have a hard time talking about brilliant black characters who elevate the conversation. It can be really weird to talk about the fact that the predominantly white company Marvel has treated black characters so poorly for 70 years now.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, like, so much of the positive treatment is people who fall in love with the characters. It is at this point, we're talking like a character like Dr. Voodoo like is borderline offensive because people don't understand what voodoo is and
Glad he's not Brother Voodoo anymore. Jesus Christ.
and but you know, in that same way, like Danny Moonstar is also kind of offensive and was created by Chris Claremont, but young native people had no other options, fell in love with Danny Moonstar, grew up and wrote Danny Moonstar, and now she's their character. And then some of them grew up and created Echo and then wrote Echo. You know, it's the Proud Star brothers, all of these characters created by white people in ways that are kind of not great, but we all didn't have other options. As a Jewish person, I had no other options. Magneto was my guy, so I figured it out. And now, like, when Jewish people write Magneto stories, it's absolutely beautiful to me and has changed and shaped the character. This is always possible. I think we forgive a lot because the love happened regardless of how it happened. Would we love to change the system? Of course we would.
My first Evita was Patty Lapone. Take a minute.
Well, and it's that thing where people are always like, if you want to make the example that comes up a lot lately because of the movie that is potentially still in production, if you want to make a black Superman, don't make Superman black, make a black Superman.
Yeah.
They have tried 50 times and you don't buy it. We have the thing that we fall in love with, that is Superman or Ghost Rider, and you know that it stands the test of time for better or for worse, but that's why that is the inroads, not just make your own. People try, believe us.
Can I just make a really shitty comment for 2 seconds? At least one person has read enough to understand what I'm saying on this panel, but if you want a black Superman, just read Jon Stewart. I'll wait.
But even that, you know, people say that's not Green Lantern. Green Lantern's Hal Jordan.
Oh my God, the only Green Lantern is Jon Stewart. I can't have a conversation with another person.
So yeah.
I mean, it is complicated no matter what. But, you know, like I said, I think we all as fans, as consumers, including those of us who are part of underrepresented minority classes, you know, we will forgive a lot when we fall in love with a character, and then the dream is we get to write them or somebody we love gets to write them. I mean, you know, Billy's a bad example of this because a gay man did create him and then so many gay people have written him, but that's great. That's awesome. Like many gay people.
Wiccan is sort of an example of
how the system evolves,
trying to evolve the system, because frankly, the fact of the matter, as some witchy people, from literally the inception, I've not always loved that name.
Oh no, I hate the name. I really wish that we could just move to Demiurge.
So it's on merch. I would love that. It's on some of the merch for Agatha All Along, but no one said the name Wiccan on screen. So we still have the potential to go directly to Demiurge and completely avoid it. People will push back because of the comic character, but again, it's about trying to evolve these things.
Well, Wanda is never codenamed Scarlet Witch. Agatha tells her that she is the Scarlet Witch in prophecy, and then it kind of never really comes up again. Like, it is, you know, she's Wanda all the time, and I would be perfectly happy to just go to Billy, you are the Demiurge, and then he's Billy the rest of the time.
Well, I don't want to be a little too doxy at the moment, but, you know, one of the things I love the most about you is that you have one of the most incredible partners in the world. And your partner is somebody who is assembled of their faith. And when I think about what it would mean if your partner became a superhero and was described as the Judaica, I'm like, that's just flat. And it just doesn't really seek to explore what it means to be connected to your faith. And so to call him Wiccan when, you know, I am a non-denominational pagan. If you're asking me what God I serve, it's Landon Cider. And, you know, that is the end of the story. But like, the thing that occasionally does fuck me up is I've been a witchy boy since I'm like 12 years old. And like, you know, I have an altar that is literally 4 levels high of the things that magically make me. And to so callously call somebody Wiccan occasionally feels to me like calling somebody scapula and having them be a Christian who helps you transition to heaven. It just feels like you are calling to the religion that is not given TV credit, and you're trying to get away with it in a way that maybe is a little more Alan Heinberg 2005 than it is Joe Locke 2024.
And it's not even Alan Heinberg 2005 is part of the problem. It's more Joss Whedon 1999, Charmed 1998. Did they say the word Wicca in The Craft? I don't remember. It's been so long. But it's really one of the last vestiges of this use of Wicca and magic with a K as this placeholder for, this isn't like hokey magic, this is like real. But again, no, Wicca is not just a placeholder. I remember I really loved the show Charm, what Young Gay didn't when it was airing, but I was always really put off by the way that they spoke about and portrayed actual Wiccans as like these weirdos. It's like, no, that's a religion. And it's one thing to pull from its concepts, but it's another thing to use its name in such a way. You know, at the very least, this is trying to be honorific rather than insulting. If we're going to start pulling at the thread of is Wiccan okay, you know, we could really start pulling at the thread of is Thor as a concept okay.
Oh, you mean Jean Grey's villain? Oh, okay. I'm going to sit here and be bitter about X-Men comics for a minute.
So yeah, so I see where it all also gets a little bit hanky when it comes into things like that is the foundation of not just the MCU, but Marvel Comics.
And I love that you're talking about the bigger picture because, KEVO, one of the things that was like actually a tenet of our early relationship was like, I came to you so excited about the things that make the Marvel Universe. And did I ever bring to you Alice? I do remember like early in our relationship being like, listen, the greatest witch of all time is Agatha Harkness, and I'm not going to have this conversation with you. And you being like, oh, that's that Buffy reference. You're weird.
And then I don't think it came up again until 2021, which is so funny.
Whereas like I think about being 13 years old and reading Franklin Richards being a baby and being nannied by Agatha Harkness. And my thought was like, I'm going to grow up into the greatest magician of my age. I am Franklin Richards and my nanny is Agatha Harkness. And I remember being a boy in 2001 when Buffy referenced what was it?
Miss Harkness, who is Willow at the coven that is helping Willow recover from her magic addiction.
It's just so important to me that this was a character that, like, you know, my Nana was the strongest woman I ever knew, and she died when I was 11. And the one thing she left me in her will was her TV, because she, in her words, knew I loved stories. And the night her TV came into my bedroom, I put on Golden Girls. And I decided in that moment, in that night, that I was B. Arthur and I was Dorothy. And the women of Agatha All Along have just felt like the Golden Girls to me. And in so many ways, the beauty of Wiccan, Joe Locke, Billy Kaplan, who has the hottest dad in television history.
Thank you so much for that, guys.
No one comes close. The literal most beautiful man to ever be on television is Billy Kaplan's dad as a guy.
Mom leaves me cold.
What?
The mom leaves me cold. Sorry, Bracken.
Yeah, no, I genuinely was disappointed that they didn't go full private practice. That guy.
Or anything, anyone. Oh my God, I would have been fine with Teddy, for God's sake. That would have been fucking hilarious.
Grey's Anatomy, Teddy Altman has a horse face like Beta Ray Bill, in a way that I genuinely think is she's actually the only version of one of Beta Ray Bill's people who would be beautiful as a woman. So she's really done it. Good job.
William, are you okay?
I'm Owen. I have problems.
This car crash is me because I'm Teddy.
Agatha would come in and just literally burn Gray Sloan to the ground. But Anyway, enough about Sacred Heart.
You bringing up her being Franklin's nanny makes me now wonder, will we see her in something like First Steps? There's so much interconnectivity potential. Yeah.
I would
Probably
love
not,
that.
I'm just saying.
No, I would love that. She's so funny and so weird. Agatha in the comics as Franklin's governess is so weird and off-putting.
I can't believe you used the actual term she was referred to as in the 1970s. You were an absolute king.
I mean, come on. You know, I don't know. She's such a weird character. And then, I don't know. I love the portrayal in the MCU. I think it is right and it works. But I do sometimes wish we got to see a mentor relationship between her and Elizabeth Olsen. And we probably won't ever get that, and that's fine. But, yeah, she is a character with a ton of potential. It's funny. She's gone through a lot, with the exception of being Franklin's governess. We've gone through the majority of her really big story beats in a weird order, up through now, because it's so much of it is working with Wanda and then being around when Wanda is melting down about the kids. And that's when we discover that she's dead, and then she's a ghost, and then the MCU happens and she gets yassified. And so now we're in interesting territory. I love that they reverse yassified her for the ghost. Hilarious to me. Yeah, I don't know. This wig choices were made. I'm excited for future wigs.
Okay. I just need to say that as the world's biggest Project Runway fan ever, that Gunnar Deathridge created Chappell Roan's unbelievable SNL look. It was intended for another awards show. It was meant to be for something different. Gunnar Deathridge is so talented. This was such a fucking bummer.
Did he do this too?
No.
Oh.
I'm sort of saying, like,
get somebody like
why do
that.
they only work with costume designers when they could work with designers? I think about Storm getting married in what is her name? Most famous wedding dress designer of her era.
Jean got married in the Vera Wang.
No, Storm also got married in a Vera Wang. Thank you. Both.
Jean did it first.
Yeah, no, 1,000%. But, like, so many of these unbelievable characters get married in these beautiful one-off costumes. Why aren't we seeing these brilliant characters appear in these costumes? I wonder if everybody on the internet would be talking about Jen Kale if Jen Kale was in a Christian Siriano. I wonder if we would all be talking about what Lilia wore if Lilia was in a Jeffrey Mack, which, guys, I saw Cyndi Lauper in concert, and evidently she still hangs out with Jeffrey Mack all the time. You know, the winner of Project Runway that she met on the show and fell in love with while judging him. My all-time favorite.
Too, so.
Yeah, no, for real. My all-time favorite winner of any reality show ever. The single most beautiful man ever. But part of what I'm talking about when I talk about that is, like, what if Jeffrey Mack, this queer genius, had designed for Wiccan? What if Stella McCartney, perhaps one of the most successful women to ever design any activewear for any woman ever, got to design these clothes in this activewear look? I think about the idea of what the MCU has become. This explanation and this exploration of superhero tropes in a way that we can understand, in the way that maybe the DC universe has ascended to a little bit more closely to a pantheon. And I think about what an Agatha means compared to a Zatanna. Zatanna is automatically godhood. But when you think about Agatha, she really is your PTA mom. She really is that person you know, but driven to such dark extents. And I wonder about what that means for me as a queer man at 40 years old who is excited to age, who is excited to see characters like Wiccan become older. You know, when we talked about doing this episode, I don't know that I thought I would become so emotional, but this is so many topics that I am just this side of a Lilith fair able to hold my tears together. And I don't know. I think Agatha All Along is the TV show that I wish I could have made. So Jack Schaefer, thank you for reminding me that at 38 years old, I have new dreams. This is a hard day. This is a hard day. And I don't really want to be here today. But Jack Schaefer, you just sort of make the world feel a little bit better. So thank you for making the ugliest Tuesday of November real cool. And also this costume designer for being quite literally my dream bottom.
This is literally if like Gladiator from Daredevil was a real person. He looks like him. He's designing superhero costumes.
I've literally named 3 characters Melville at this point.
Oh my god. So hot.
I also really had to point out, because of another complaint I saw so much, was how did Billy learn to like sew that costume so fast? You fools. When his mother fully came into her powers, a costume just appeared on her body. What the hell?
He's gay. Calm
He
down.
manifested the entire road. But yeah, no, I saw one being like, he's gay. We can also stretch fabric. What do you want?
Yeah, no, I don't think that's what happened at all, even though it is a correct answer. I'm 100% certain he arose from the road fully garbed and
In
ready.
this,
Exactly, yes, in this. Just like happened to his mother. I wish we had seen it.
And I'm not sure he knows how to do it. I'm not sure he knows how to lift a pencil despite being able to do this. And I don't care. It's a fictional story where he's a magical boy who's figuring out his powers.
Yeah.
Everything doesn't need a complaint all the time.
100%. That is correct. Especially with magic. But yeah, man, Daniel Salon really killed this costume.
Scott Cunningham is so grateful that somebody said that not everyone needs to be deeply critical of what you say about magic.
Oh, rip.
And on that note,
well, that was a really good, deep Silver Raven Wolf cut, but anyway.
Well, you could have referenced Buckman's, but please don't.
One of the things that I love about KEVO bringing this image up is look at the detail work that is in this costume. The unbelievable runes, the idea of the cape being referential to Vision.
Yep. It's a smidge of a bummer that we couldn't, again, like if only we'd had a 10th episode, I would have loved to zoom in on this a little bit more.
You know,
and I'm hopeful for the future, though.
Yeah, we'll see more.
I pointed out to NICO, and I'm dying to get his, much like we have been listening to his extrapolation of Ballad of the Witch's Road, I'm really going to be pushing him to do something cool with the Billy Kaplan theme that Christoph Beck came up with.
Yeah.
Because it's like a 4-note simple theme overall. And I feel like there is such an intention of that having the potential of being grown, much like everything that they've done with this character. So I hope we get to see more from this costume and see how it could evolve in a future project where it gets more of a spotlight.
One of the things that I've been thinking about a lot that I hope maybe carries as the question that we go into the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe with is what is history in a world where history is overruled by a previous universe? What if I told you I was remaking The Lord of the Rings, but every reference I made wasn't just to the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings, but it was to J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings? What do you do with a Marvel Cinematic Universe where every reference is to 2 things? I think about the value of how I cast, being really, really honest here, as a person who grew up pagan since I'm 14, 13, whose parents were like, oh, you want to leave the Catholic faith? Okay, let's talk about it. Just keep us involved and keep us informed of what you're going through. When I think about the identities of magic, when I think about what these characters represent, I'm left thinking about who I was at 16 and who I was at 18, when I was Wiccan versus when I encountered the character. And I think about who I am at 38. And one of the things that Jack Schaefer's vision for the Marvel Cinematic Universe has never kept me out of is seeing myself. Sometimes I'm Agatha, sometimes I'm Wiccan, sometimes I'm Jen Kale, sometimes I'm Lilia. But when I watch maybe Eternals, I'm always like, oh, I'm Cersei. When I watch maybe Multiverse of Madness, I'm like, oh, I'm America. There is something about the freedom of the identity of Agatha All Along, where I have gotten to be 100 different characters week to week, that is the freedom of free and uncoupled fiction that it's so rare in the MCU. You get that sense of uncoupledness. You get that sense of I'm not bound to one story. And I don't know, whether it's Jack Schaefer, Catherine Hahn, the unbelievable entire cast, or, and I need to point him out, Joe Glock, I really feel like AAA was there for me in a way that was unique in the MCU. Kevo, one of the things that I have been most excited about is that this featured characters that you cared about in a unique way versus maybe TK, who cares about the entirety of the Marvel Universe against his will and loved these characters uniquely. What does it feel like as somebody who sees these characters as the inlet to the Marvel Cinematic Universe and gets to see these new interpretations of them?
I don't purport myself to be any sort of comic aficionado. In fact, I keep myself a comic novice to provide that perspective of someone who loves them, but is perhaps not as well versed as you, handsome gentleman, or our lovely boyfriend, Jonah. And at the same time, I vividly remember when you and I first met, when this was a comic that was one that you introduced me to hopefully get me more invested in comics. When we first became friends, when we started dating, obviously these smart inroads being, look at these queers, and this backstory of it was always the intention, but they were going to reveal it over time, but people caught into it right away, so they had to reveal it more quickly, and overwhelmingly positive. And now the history that they have gone through, Billy and Teddy as characters, this has been so amazing. I mean, just getting WandaVision and all of the references to what the characters became after they were Wanda and Vision's kids in that fantasy world was really great. So the fact that we've gotten this, I am happy, but having this queer heart that I have, there is always the fear of having everything good taken away from us. And so this is great, but, not being sure where the story is going. It feels like there is a very clear intention of seeing Tommy, but I am really, really, really anxious about whether or not we are going to see Teddy, which is why I included this portion of our cover as well. Both of these actors, whether it's Kid Connor or the character of Eddie from this, are specifically not Teddy, we are told. Jack Schaefer has confirmed that she wanted to name the boyfriend Teddy to be a reference to that and be a potential, but was told, nope, that's not who he's going to be. Kid Connor has said, no, I have no interest in playing that character, which I think works. Joe Locke surprised me, and I really am smitten with his performance and his characterization of Wiccan, which is even more why I want more and more from the character. But I don't necessarily want that from Kid Connor, but then who? I won't be nearly as happy seeing Billy if we don't get to see Billy and Teddy together. It's such an important part of each character's story. Like we talked about with Jennifer Kale, I am completely on board for shifting the canon. Something that I thought would be interesting that I pitched was make him Carol's kid. that would more directly tie him into everything. It would make him more integral to the MCU. It would change so much, but at the same time, really be a reinvention of the character that would still be honoring the canon that exists. We have so many options. And so that for me is something that is going to hugely affect how I feel. But based on everything that we got, it was so much more than I could have hoped for. And I'm really eager for whatever is going to be coming next.
You know, one of the things that I love about the conversation about what's coming next and thinking about what it means to be a queer fan of this media is that we are on the precipice of the change point. You know, when we think about who the Young Avengers were, Billy and Teddy were the first queer couple in like regular Avengers canon. And now we're talking about such an evolution of that idea. We're talking about the opportunity for a creator like Jack Schaefer to be told, no, the character you want to use is so special, you can't have them. And as somebody who occasionally feels like you're Hulkling, I am quite proud that we have come so far and that Joe Locke's love for this character is equal to our own. You know, TK, one of the things that is so unique is, as someone who grew up gay in the Marvel Universe, you are also innately super judgmental of gay characters in the Marvel Universe. Hey, what's up? I didn't want to be super shitty about it, but yeah, no,
I am
all suck.
Horribly judgmental, very unfair a lot of the time.
Fuck every one of them. But you know, I kind of love that Tommy's bi, and Tommy's bisexuality with Prodigy is one of the most exciting things about the X-Men universe. But if you're asking me if is he homosexual or is he like literally queer-mosexual? Because there are characters who are gay and there are characters who are like, you can't even have them be interested in a woman. And it is a very different thing.
He's Anthony Rapp queer.
Term. So when you think about Wiccan, who carries the banner of queerness in the Marvel Universe, that's not my queer. Teddy is my queer, or maybe Novar is my queer, or frankly, Wolverine is my queer. As somebody I look to as my queer idol, as somebody I look to as somebody who helps me understand what I feel about queer culture, how do you feel about Joe Locke carrying that banner for all of us?
I think it's where we are right now. No matter what happens, we still don't have a single X-Man in live action MCU, which, like, I mean, all X-Men are queer, so like we're about to open some floodgates, and also every time
Cyclops.
I appreciate you said live action MCU because the trailer for the final season of What If
shows me that Storm.
So I really feel like they're getting there, but when?
And again, by the time we get there, we're years down the line. The needle will have moved even more culturally. We got, for all the Joe Locke that we had a much more significant queer relationship in this show, and that is between Agatha and Rio. We got that kiss that is that the first one? Is that the first?
It was credited as the first one, but I am always very shy about getting excited about that.
Yeah, because there's always like a little thing that we're all forgetting about, but it was huge. I mean, it was such a huge deal.
Eternals.
Oh yeah,
but that was nothing.
And that they had a relationship. I'm sure they kissed, but that was also two men. So this might have been the first two women.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was just that was such a beautiful relationship. But I'm good with Joe Locke being the guy right now. He is carrying a banner of queerness in streaming media right now and doing it very well. I really feel for him because it's an enormous burden and it clearly is a bit stressful.
He is literally living up to it like no
Yeah.
one has ever lived up to it.
100%. I cannot applaud him enough. He is absolutely living up to it. That is 100% correct. And so like, yeah, I'm 40. I am in a very long-term non-monogamous relationship. I identify as queer. I have not a unique perspective, but I definitely do not have I think Joe or Billy's perspective. So I love this, but it's almost kind of like the same thing as why I love Miss Marvel, because I have no relationship to a Pakistani family in Jersey. That is not anything resembling my experience. So the joy for me is seeing a kitchen table that looked nothing like mine.
I want to thank every Pakistani family in New Jersey that housed me during my AP exam push, junior and senior years. Every Pakistani family that told their children that they didn't get a 5 on the AP exam, they were garbage. Thank you so much for telling me that if I didn't get a 5 on an AP exam, I would be garbage. You guys literally pushed me to be successful. Thank you so much.
Not my experience. So that show tickled me in such a way, because I got to learn about a culture that was so not my own. And similarly, like, I don't know what it is like to be a 17-year-old gay man / boy today. And so this was beautiful to watch, and he handled it so well. I also don't know what it is like to be a timeless witch who is in love with the embodiment of death. So, you know, I got a lot for my queer money in this show. And like I said, the floodgates are about to open with queerness. So if this isn't quite mine, I'm still not at a place where I'm like, but what about representing me? We're going to get that 3 open bedroom Cyclops, Wolverine, Jean Grey moment. It's just going to have to come in time, and I'll wait as long as I need to.
Until we look like this.
Until I look like that, exactly, including being see-through.
Well, I only want to add that one of the things that I am so excited about is the freedom of the blackness of Wonder Man.
Yeah.
Wonder Man is one of my favorite characters in the Avengers, and the minute they said that he was going to become a black man who was experiencing the black experience, I was like, wow, what a way to take a character that is basically like movie theater Hawkeye and make him unique, make him special. Because, like, I think the queer Latino and the queer Greek experience is unique. And I am not willing to say that somebody else can stand in my place. One of the things that I think that Wiccan and Joe Locke have represented is the white queer, the craft experience that we've talked about tonight. And thank you, because if you hadn't done that, so many white queers would have never stepped aside and said, the next person, the first Latino queer who gets to lead an MCU project, or the first black queer that gets to lead an MCU project, or the first incredible trans voice. They wouldn't have the room that they need. And, you know, I think about Angel, and I think about that one-off line that is, Angel had a baby with Darla that seemed improbable, so that improbable baby could have something that was just this side of impossible. Jack Schaefer had a baby with Endgame, and it was WandaVision. What an incredible experience to get to see that baby give birth to something so brave, so one of a kind. I hear people say that Moon Knight did things that superhero TV never did. Sure. But then Agatha All Along did things that TV has never done. And you can pride yourself on being bold in a limited space. But Agatha All Along was bold in a brave space. And I don't know. End of the day, I am so excited about what's coming next. I hope that Vision Quest isn't the next thing, but if it is, fine. But end of the day, TK, Kevo, you both said it right. Agatha needs to show up in Doomsday. And if not, well, you can eat a dick.
we've had weird luck with show characters and the movies. I mean, we're in unprecedented territory with that stuff. It was always such a disappointment to me in Age of Ultron that the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. didn't show up to help with the rescue. And we kind of never recovered from that. Like, I don't know. It just, a lot of movie stars agreed to do a streaming show, but it has been very tough to take streaming stars into the films. And I really hope we start. I mean, Miss Marvel is a great exception to that, but that's kind of planned. But I'm really hoping we start to see a big change in that, because these two women, I mean, like, we haven't even talked about the fact, if you are just an MCU person who is watching this, in the comics, Thanos is not trying to balance the universe. He's trying to fuck death. Right. That is his only mission in this world. He is in love with death. And one of the most shocking things about Agatha All Along is that Rio/Death is like not dissimilar from who Death is in the comics. And Death is really weird in the comics. So I was not expecting that at all. The abstract entities are a very odd thing, and that's a whole other episode. But getting to redo Thanos and have Josh Brolin trying to fuck Aubrey Plaza, who is just completely uninterested, would be the most amazing thing in the world. There's just, I mean, limitless potential.
I mean, you're describing Lisa Marie and Michael's wedding night, but genuinely.
Yeah. I think that speaks to how far the MCU has come, that they're able to do these things, though, and I'm really loving it. What was the concept from the end of Thor: Love and Thunder, who Gore was trying to reach?
Eternity, that one of the abstract entities,
so well portrayed from everything I know from the comics.
Yeah.
And, you know, at the start, they were like, we can't do weird stuff because people won't get it. And I feel like that was a huge stumbling point at the top of the multiverse saga, of them being like, still can't be too weird. We got to slowly introduce the multiverse. No, don't. Just dive right in. People have really loved this iteration. They've loved this performance. Just go in and let it be the comic weird that it is. Just stop trying to do it slowly. We're here. We're good.
Completely.
You know, the last 2 hours have been an incredible opportunity to think about what I think about, not just Agatha All Along, but then the face of queer TV as a whole. One of the things that I think is so tough is that Catherine Hahn and Aubrey Plaza do not identify as queer, yet they are the queer identities of the show. Yet Joe Locke's queerness is the queerness that runs through this program. I feel grateful that we are living in a world where queerness can take all sorts of forms. You know, just to pull one more Grey's Anatomy reference, Station 19, Travis is an actual straight man and does things that in gay porn I have only ever seen Stu do.
Season 7 went hard. Yup.
Hard. It was Jake Barnes up the butt. And so I was really, KEVO just
I was like, who's Jake Barnes?
Stu. But I don't know. I think there is something to be said about the fact that Catherine Hahn and Aubrey Plaza made me believe in gay love in a way that, I don't know, maybe Joe Locke does. And whether you were acting or you were being these people, this is a show that made me believe that these actors believed in the program. And I think maybe the last show that I thought the actors believed in the show this much, 4 or 5 years ago, I think maybe, I don't know, Hill House? Maybe Hill House was the last time I believed that the actors believed in the script this much.
Aubrey is bi, but Catherine is not. She's married to ADA Jeffrey Brandow from Crossing Jordan. Yeah, I know how to get reactions out of you. I know how to get to you. Yeah, Ethan Sandler is who Catherine Hahn is married to since 2002. 2 kids.
Are you sure?
Yeah, it's what the wiki says right in front of me. Catherine Hahn. Aubrey is also married, but she's like, I fall in love with boys and girls. So
I was a Law and Order boy, and Crossing Jordan was a really major point in my life, and Kevo,
It's that and Joan of Arcadia feel like they're from the same period, and so those especially, when I see an actor with that on their resume, I'm like, say that. That's who they were.
I was not prepared to talk about Crossing Jordan on air. Jill Hennessy,
Good. That's not the plan.
Jill Hennessy is somebody that I could write articles about. I could just write.
We are genuinely going to start diving into Grey's Anatomy content very, very soon. So keep an eye out for that, all of our X's for Show fans. But Crossing Jordan, I am not sure. I'd have to watch it first. We did not watch
it's literally perfect.
154 episodes of Grey's Anatomy, not to talk about our feelings.
Are there only 154 Crossing Jordan?
No, I said 654 Grey's Anatomy. I have no idea how many Crossing Jordan there are. You're in this by yourself.
I have seen every episode of Joan of Arcadia and Crossing Jordan. Let me tell you, procedurals literally defined my teens.
117, and really, God, after Grey's, everything is just like, oh, that's nothing. We could do that in a week.
Yeah, truly. We have done 21 seasons of Grey's Anatomy, 6 seasons of Private Practice, and 7 seasons of Station 19. Mostly because we enjoyed it, but also 10% because I really wanted to impress the man who's sitting right below me. Of the man right below me. TK, you are a unique creature because you exist in the worlds of magic and theology in the same ways you exist in the worlds of media. But you are surrounded by people like myself who are truly 35% person and 65% media. And then, comparatively, your incredible partner who is a theologian. Is that a fair way to describe them?
Theology scholar, theologian, somewhere in there.
So what does Agatha All Along mean to you as somebody who thinks about the deeper picture of this discussion?
I mean, it's in terms of that stuff, it's a bit of a lark because, of course, Marvel can't go deep in there. I love Jack Schaefer for doing what she did. And again, finding ways to sort of, if anything seems hokey, there's a really good reason why, because this is all from the mind of a teenager and, not a Harvard Divinity School student. And it's, it's fun. It is what it is. It's always going to have to work in the scope of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and making something that can gesture at really cool ideas in and of itself is pretty impressive, because a lot of stuff can't even do that. Like, it just kind of has to be an action show. And so this did so much cool stuff. It also did it on a budget that was less than 2 episodes of Loki. Less than 2 episodes of WandaVision. Like this,
less than 1 episode of Secret Invasion. If the anything to be.
Oh my God, that's horrifying.
Which is insane. What did you pay for?
Skrulls.
I guess it was all Skrull makeup. So I mean, just we also gotta give props to all the line producers involved. Hollywood budgeting is not easy, and they just, they did a fantastic job. So I can't say enough good things about this show.
I feel the same. And, Kevo, one of the things that is so hard is picking out the things from 9 episodes that are going to be the things that we talk about. I am so grateful that you are our producer on this show, and I cannot wait to talk about more amazing things with you in the next couple of days. I know that tomorrow we have an amazing comics coverage, and then on Sunday, we're going to go hog on some Drag Race. This Down Under is the sloppiest, shittiest mess I have seen since Down Under 3. So let me tell you, I am excited about Down Under 4. But until we get back to that, Kevo, who is your witch in this coven, and where can everybody find you?
Do I want to bring up a picture of the coven for helpful? I have to look through all my files now. I wasn't prepared. And I mean, obviously, my answer is just going to be Billy. As a, moody queer person with dead mom issues, I obviously can't help.
Well, fabulous dead mom issues. Let's just
fabulous and complicated dead mom issues. Obviously I relate very strong to Billy. But if I'm not going to say Billy, I think the character that I am most excited to see more from, so I'm glad she survived, is Jen Kale. And I hope we do see more. I hope the rumors that there is interest in seeing more from her are true. I hope it does lead to Ghost Rider. I hope that this just continues to see this universe expand ever forward into interesting new places. And in the interim, you can find me talking about those interesting new places at KEVO Really. That's KEVOREALLY.
TK, you are the spirit of vengeance I never knew that I needed before I met you, but you are also at the same time the nanny to Franklin that I always knew was there. You are at all times the rage of Agatha and the love of Ms. Hart. So I would love to know who is your witch in this coven and where everybody can find you on the internet.
It's Jennifer. Of course it's Jennifer. Come on. She is everything. She is the moment. I mean, I'm just so excited about her, and I got ideas and I got background. So if you need more Jennifer tidbits, just get at me on the socials at TK Elemental. Nico, who's your witch?
Oh, I'm Lilia. You're welcome. Side note, I'm also Agatha. I'm all of them. I'm the protagonist. This is one of the
you're not Rio. I'm Jennifer and I'm Rio. Those are.
Oh, I can't think of anybody I am less than Rio. This is sort of like I'm removed. I'm just commenting. I can't just comment. I have to insert myself. And that's why I'm Agatha. And that's why I'm Lilia. And it's so exciting. But one of the things that's the most exciting is that you can catch this show 3 times a week on YouTube on X's for Show. You guys can catch us on X's for Podcast and HTML. You guys can find those episodes on Thursdays and Tuesdays over on your podcast services. So do take a chance to like, comment, and subscribe. But 3 things you guys can do for us. You guys can check me out. Number 1, at NICO Action, and the show out at X is for Show. But you can also, number 1, be brave, and number 2, evolve daily. Who you were yesterday, amazing. Who you are today, incredible. But who you are tomorrow, that is the dream. And just like Agatha, we can't wait to see who you're going to be in your next iteration. So whether it's a ghost or the person who tells that the Scarlet Witch is going to destroy the universe and Doctor Strange, we cannot wait. So like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you then.